The sun starts shining in my window. So welcome everybody. I'm really pleased to have you, everyone here for the day 2 of our quantum symposium, quantum New Mexico symposium. It's a really exciting opportunity, and I really want to thank all the organizers here. We've got a really good team and of everyone who's been managing the AV, all the group organizers who have put this together at UNM and CNM and around CNM, UNM and Sandia. There we go. That April Fools, and throughout the state, and really to show our partnership, we're going to start off kicking the day off with Dr. Luis Cifuentes, who's the Vice President for Research at the New Mexico State University. So Luis, I'll go ahead and turn it over to you once you unmute.
Thank you, David. Good morning, everybody. It is a pleasure to be able to kick off the second day of the symposium. So, why quantum in New Mexico? So, I don't need to tell the folks on this Zoom how critical quantum information science is going to be to the future of our nation and economy. But not everybody knows the incredible contribution that New Mexico has made to QIS and the unique opportunities that we have in the state to build on our established programs. It's also a great potential to positively impact our diverse communities and create an equitable economic development. And that requires a broad investment in the QIS ecosystem. And this coalition, which you'll hear about today, is going to bring together the stakeholders that are going to be able to make New Mexico the quantum state. So, what is Quantum New Mexico? It is a partnership of stakeholders across the state that is building on the historical pioneering activities that have occurred in the state to create a national hub for QIS. The initial activities are aimed at creating a state strategy that's going to build an inclusive and robust quantum ecosystem that encompasses research and development, workforce development, economic development, business policy, and infrastructure activities. The QNM Coalition is very, very new. It started forming in 2021 out of an EDA proposal that involved the research universities in the state, UNM, New Mexico State University and Tech, the national labs, Sandia, LANL, AFRL, and tribal community and technical colleges and universities, as well as industry partners. The initial program, the flagship program being launched by Quantum New Mexico, is called the Quantum New Mexico Institute. This is a joint research and education institute between UNM and Sandia, and it will create the opportunities for workforce and economic development in what we call New Mexico's emerging quantum economy. Things are also happening here at New Mexico State University. Very young, fledgling, but we are in the process. We started in spring of 2020, putting out an undergraduate course taught by a faculty team in computer science, electrical engineering, math, and physics. We enrolled 21 students that included 3 women and 9 Hispanic students. We followed up with 4 internal PhD fellowships awarded in the area of quantum computing and quantum information science, and we appreciate the support of LANL to that end. In 2021, we received some funding from the Army Research Lab by Professors John Harding and Professor Boris Kiefer in physics, and we are in the process of hiring a faculty candidate in electrical engineering that specializes in quantum information science. So why Quantum New Mexico in why quantum in New Mexico? Because we have established programs, expertise, workforce, and capabilities in Q&M at key institutions and national labs, unlike any others in the country. And these established relationships and programs can help kickstart, build, and sustain the industry with high value jobs in the state. Today, you will be hearing about the quantum industry, the quantum economy, the workforce, and what we need to do to make New Mexico the quantum state. Thank you very much. Thank you for inviting me, David.
I did hit the unmute spot right as it disappeared. Thanks, Luis. That was great. A great introduction. I'm really pleased that UNM is and NMSU is being so engaged. I've got to actually say before, I am David Hansen. I'm a biology professor and also the assistant vice president, one of the assistant vice presidents for research at UNM, and I've been working on helping to organize some sort of larger efforts in the area of the quantum space across the state. And I'll just start off by just talking about this larger initiative we've been working on. And I'll share my screen here. Oops, sorry. All right. Okay, so you can see we have a larger idea of wanting to grow stuff beyond the Institute to what we've been talking about as the quantum coalition, right? Really talking about a quantum, New Mexico quantum future. This really got started through, so that not advanced for you. There we go. Can you all, yeah, great. Now it seems to be a little bit of a lag, but here we go. You should be able to see that the origins of this coalition really came about through in response to a large opportunity from the Economic Development Agency in sort of a new area through their Build Back Better program, and they had an opportunity, a call coming out that came out in the fall to try to really do some large economic development efforts in a region. And we jumped on that in New Mexico and with the aspiration of creating, taking the full stack of New Mexico talent in the quantum space, right, where we've got everything from, information science, material science, educational aspects at our universities and government expertise in our national labs and connections with industry, and really try to bring all that together to build a new, to really develop the economy there, and really put us on, New Mexico on a path where the advances that we've heard about so much about in quantum could really take us forward and displace Silicon Valley and create the new quantum Rio Grande Valley. And you can see just in the graphic over here, there are aspects of economic development around connectivity, partnership pathways, education and workforce training, and a quantum hub collaborative. And the map here was the initial bit of demonstrating that we had institutions across the state, right, that we're all going to work together to advance this quantum workforce development and quantum discovery to really make something exciting and new. And that was really requiring this coalition of national labs, academia, industry, economic development groups, and nonprofits. And those include, this advancement's being really slow, we had about, in the proposal, we had around 30 individuals or in institutions. hopefully this will advance. There we go. Sorry, now it's working. Right. So you can see the group of people who had joined in on what was a phase 1 proposal, right? This is the idea that we're putting these things together, and we see that support across the state. UNM Rainforest Innovations was leading that submission, and to understand that we really have to have experience in economic development. The EDA proposal wasn't investing a ton in research directly, but investing in an area that was going to support a lot of economic development across the state. And we wanted something that we really could say, we have the ability to be the best in the world. We have people who are the best in the world, in the US, and are really a center of excellence in our state that has the real ability to lead and grow and drive development by attracting industry actually here into the state. And these are all the kinds of people who were on board for trying to develop that program, right? This is an aspiration to create this coalition. If we looked at in a simple way and think about the areas of interest and impact in that proposal, we boil it down in sort of 3 main areas, so 3 kind of thrust areas that include, science and engineering research and development. A lot of stuff you've, heard about yesterday. We have these great assets of Sequent, CHDM, MESA, QPL, SINT, and many other existing research resources. These fundamental assets that make this the place, that make New Mexico the place for this. And of course, you could take that and broaden these programs as much as we've heard and work on joint proposals. But that sort of goal, right? That's the target of why you want to invest in this area, why here in New Mexico. We really would want to put most of the dollars into things in these other areas of quantum information science and technology, education and workforce development. And enabling infrastructure and resources, right? To really invest in the state to enable this to be, the science and engineering to be extremely successful and to grow the economy here. And so you have, that involves then, UNM's College of Arts and Sciences and the School of Engineering and the Quantum Summer Camp and internships, and all the institutional partners we saw on the last slide to really develop and support these academic programs, develop new pathways, and identify opportunities there. In order to be able to do that, right, we can have this function. We have to actually invest in enabling infrastructure and resources for the state. We have existing, programs, but we need to really support that with industry engagement, building some actual physical infrastructure and other resources. So to really explain this a little bit more, this is kind of the big overview of the idea that we would have used for the coalition in the proposal. And these thrusts, to dive into them more, we're really talking about needing to do things where we're integrating quantum technology research across the board, right? We've heard them in celebrating a lot of information science there, but we tie that, need to tie that a lot to materials engineering, advanced manufacturing, and then novel applications. We were really hearing a lot of that yesterday about the excitement of realizing that you can actually use these advances in quantum to do things that people had never even thought of before or haven't thought of yet. And that connects that really into quantum connections to quantum adjacent fields that people have talked about. And these include really as art even, right? Art has a lot of connections with visualizations, creating displays that convey what quantum is and how it's being used, using different materials in those displays to create new kinds of art, and then actually great involvement uses for security, right? There's all kinds of these non-fungible tokens and other, sort of ways of making sure that you have control over your IP and art. Similarly, and there's big opportunities in film and digital media. There's a lot of interest in that for being able to do the complex and fast computations needed for all the fancy graphics we see in all our movies these days, and also to be able to do that rapidly across long distances. I think that's a sort of a big deal if you're out in a site and you'd want to be able to communicate. We talked about being able to have the computational power yesterday, and one of our other guest panelists yesterday talked about needing to network those together and build on the communication network. Well, this is even film and digital media will make advances and use of that area. In my area, I'm a biologist, and quantum touches on directly and indirectly in my own research, where we have things where you make novel sensors and you use that for diagnosing, potentially for diagnosing disease or solving complex problems, working with the Internet of Things to help communicate with those sensors. Lots of areas that also applies into these other areas that are, big things in our state, right? Film and digital media, art, bioscience, agriculture and climate change is also really going to have lots of touch points with quantum in terms of sensing and modeling and predicting and being able to do that well. Also in the energy and water use areas, right? There are many touch points. To me, one of the most sort of eye-opening things to think about is that if we have computing capabilities that are much faster and need less power, well, here they also need less water then, right? Less for cooling. So there's amazing ways to realize just how the quantum discoveries and quantum areas that we have expertise in touch out to these other fields and broaden out and make you sort of understand suddenly how something that sounds so narrow as quantum can really grow, can be really used to grow an economy. A critical part of that, which we came up a lot yesterday, is really on this other thrust is its education and workforce. It's really all the success that we need in this area in adjacent fields are more people, right? We've got hearing tons yesterday. There are great jobs really waiting, and New Mexicans really wanting to get them, but they need the pathways and the networks really to be put forward and coordinated across the state. We have the talent. The success really requires, greater diversity. I always talk about things I learned with working with NASA when they have grants and things, when they want a targeted expert to do a specific task, and then you get a narrow range of applicants that always put together a lot of good proposals and do great work. But if they want to make a breakthrough and make huge discoveries and just a whole new area, they have to open up to a challenge, and these to open up to everyone, and you get a wider range of responses, but your chances of finding something fantastically amazing and new whole paradigm is much larger when you open up to the diversity of our populations. Brilliance really is everywhere, and diversity is one of New Mexico's greatest strengths. And so I think this is what will continue, why we'll continue to be thought leaders in this space, because we grow and build on and utilize our diversity. And that's essential for all that we go for. Along with that, it's really, we have to also keep this mind of greater equity and access, because that's what's going to get there. If we have all the minds, we have all the talent, but we've got to access it. We've got to get the access to those minds and let them equitably have a chance to come forward. And so I really think all of our highlighted alumni and our current students that I've talked to yesterday in the happy hour also, all clearly had different paths that they took at different stages, and in different paths into and out of the programs here, right? That's really critical for building a sort of a larger program and making things where you have really gives us great access and equity. If we continue that idea sort of visually a little bit, we don't really, pathways aren't enough to think about because there isn't a pathway that I can draw. Really, these are networks that have multiple points of entry and exit. And so I in a very simple way, just thought about, well, here are things that we need to do on the outside in this educational system. We need to, involve, I put in here the Q through 12 instead of K through 12 that I think Andrew Landau mentioned yesterday as another cute Q introduction. But have those people and the curious at any age, get them, reach out to them, have things where they'll have a chance to spark an interest in STEM or STEAM, right? Either way, art is important and has a utility in there. So I'm putting STEAM in this. At some time in between those points, they may have come in or out of one of these different kinds of institutions and gotten into the curious and gotten to come back in to go over to a spark, to get sparked there. A lot of these sparks are happening, well before anyone knows what quantum is. And so that STEAM spark may go over through these groups to a STEAM research opportunity, or they may get a quantum adjacent job right away. Some other experience in here that they realize after a while they're in a quantum adjacent field and they suddenly learn what quantum is. Well, that gives them the quantum spark down here, okay, and may bring them back into this pool of opportunities of institutions that can take them through, and maybe they will come around and some will come out and decide they made some discovery and will become a quantum thought leader. Or at that point, maybe they'll go over here and from another path and get into a quantum adjacent job. So these are all successful paths, and trying to draw a network would be a mess of lines, right? All the possibilities, which is exciting. And also the problem is, even though there are a mess of opportunities, a million ways to go, we still do have to, within this realm, define a few possibilities, right? So that we can start people on paths, show them there is a path, not just that you can do it any way you want. All right. So I think that's a big challenge that we've been trying to get to, define this more. As we develop those pathways, continuing here, there are educational kinds of pathways that really probably more what we were thinking when I was showing that graph, like these cross-institutional programs we want to develop, pre-quantum, I'm calling it, things that we haven't even thought about. People aren't thinking about quantum yet. They're barely thinking about STEM, quantum adjacent areas. These are where we're going to pull in the large numbers of students that we have to create a large enough workforce to make a difference, right? And out of that will also come quantum thought leaders, and we'll also have career development and retraining certificates, other kinds of programs and opportunities, again, going in and out of that, of the institutions that we have. It's important that we support entrepreneurial work. That's why we had Rainforest Innovations leading this proposal, expanding those assistance programs. We had wanted to talk about having, something like a master's in business creation and scaling out of our Anderson School, where, someone from San Diego or Orlando could take leave, try to start a business, but get a degree along the way. If they come, when they come back, they've also got something in their hand if the business didn't work out, or in addition to the business. This is, and also there's a lot of interest, trying to think of other ways to assist startups, lowering costs and barriers. Of course, critical to all this, and was why we want to hear more today in later panels, is developing real partnerships, internships with industry folks, finding out from industry really what the workforce needs are from our employers, and making sure that we have pathways that train that workforce across institutions. So again, turning pathways into networks, multiple points of entry and exit. The last sort of area in that was enabling infrastructure. It's great that we have the capability, fantastic capabilities in quantum computing and areas and on campus or at an industry partner, but if we can't actually access them from different parts of our state and different communities, then we we can't take advantage of them. So it's very exciting to see all the broadband support at the state and federal levels that's coming in, that is really going to allow, I think, facilitate bringing that access to the exciting opportunities that we have here and interacting between institutions. We need to be investing, wanting to be investing more in high performance computing capabilities that tie to that, right? If you've got that connection, you still need to do that computing yourself, some with industry, some with universities. Having larger sort of statewide resources, so every small community doesn't have to create its own web servers and database storage, and so we can share stuff, right? That sort of integrated computational resources, building up our ability to continue our amazing manufacturing up into a larger scale, be the place that makes all the quantum materials in the future that are going to drive this industry. And really critically, even though it's last on this list, is actually having some physical spaces, where buildings and spaces where we can do collaborative research, have the new sort of combined work areas that people can be side by side in with the research, but also with the community, with the other quantum adjacent fields, and really to spur economic development there, right? These sort of hubs and spokes. So unfortunately, right, that phase one wasn't unfunded. So you would ask, well, what was the coalition concept now? And my my answer to that is it really isn't different. We still want to work to build this quantum New Mexico coalition. It's just not going to be funded on that particular mechanism, but we're investing the time and energy and the dollars into making this happen. So we want to create this, build it forward, formalize that coalition structure, so we can keep working together on new opportunities. What we'll be doing the rest of the year, we're going to be hosting a number of events to meet our goals, things like starting out, building up quantum or QNM technical exchange workshops, starting fairly soon, learning more about more. We still, this is really an aspirational goal. It was a phase one project to develop this larger ecosystem. So we need to start having those workshops so we can do that. Get some quantum 101 briefings, educate the community about what quantum means and what it can do, build that workforce and build the cluster. So there's lots of things coming up, and it's time frame to start laying them out. If you want to get involved in this, QNMC is really the early stage. We want to hear feedback on how to do this. We want to now reach out and make these connections, and you really should reach out to me, reach out to Jake. You're welcome to reach out to other folks too. We're trying to sort of be the points on these at our institutions and make the connections that we want to go forward. So with that, I know I've used my time, so there isn't necessarily time for many questions. So we could probably save those till later. I'll stop sharing when we have a break.